Hello and welcome to Benz Voice Narrative. Now, this class is going to be exercise based. In that, we'll be looking at a comprehension passage that features all the 10 words we've considered in the first two lessons on the registers of CID. Now, if you haven't seen those two lessons, you can always check them out on the Benz English Lab playlist. Now, this is how this will work. There'll be a passage displayed on the screen, and I'm going to do what to read the passage as slowly as possible so that everybody you're back on can follow through. Now, you can also pause the video along the way so that you can take it slowly for self-comprehension. Now, after this passage, we have 10 questions that you will take. I do have 10 questions you're going to take on the passage. And at the end of that, we have answers to these questions. But I should mention that you should stay true to yourself by not going to the answers before attempting the questions. The reason I'm putting the answers at the end is so that you can compare my answers with yours. To be sure, to ascertain whether or not you understood all the words that we looked at in the first two lessons. And before we get to the passage, let's roll through those words again. The first is evidence. The second is surveillance. The third is interrogation. 4 is alibi. 5 is motive. 6, chain of custody. 7, forensic analysis. 8, witness statement. And penultimately, we have profiling. And finally, we have investigation. So right now, let's get to the passage. I should mention that the passage has been designed around these 10 words, and your answers also are those that should feature each of these 10 words. So let's get to the passage.
So the title of the passage is The Bank Robbery Investigation. The Bank Robbery Investigation. Now, here is the passage. The instruction says, read this passage and answer the questions under it. So let's get to it. Detective James was called to investigate a robbery at a local bank. Upon arrival, he collected evidence, including fingerprints and security footage. After analyzing the evidence, he identified a suspect and placed him under surveillance. During interrogation, the suspect provided an alibi, but further investigation revealed inconsistencies. The detective discovered the motive for the crime, financial gain. The suspect's chain of custody for the stolen money was shaky, and forensic analysis linked him to the crime scene. Witness statements corroborated the detective's story. Profiling suggested the suspect was a calculated individual. Their investigation led to a conviction. So let's go through the passage more slowly. Detective James was called to investigate a robbery at a local bank. Upon arrival, he collected evidence, including fingerprints and security footage. After analyzing the evidence, he identified the suspect and placed him under surveillance. During interrogation, the suspect provided an alibi, but further investigation revealed inconsistencies. The detective discovered a motive for the crime, financial gain. The suspect's chain of custody for the stolen money was shaky, and forensic analysis linked him to the crime scene. Witness statements corroborated the detective's theory. Profiling suggested the suspect was a calculated individual. Their investigation led to a conviction. So let's take the passage for the last time. Detective James was called to investigate a robbery at a local bank. Upon arrival, he collected evidence, including fingerprints and security footage. After analyzing the evidence, he identified a suspect and placed him under surveillance. During interrogation, the suspect provided an alibi, but further investigation revealed inconsistencies. The detective discovered a motive for the crime, financial gain. The suspect's chain of custody for the stolen money was shaky, and forensic analysis linked him to the crime scene. Witness statements corroborated the detective's theory. Profiling suggested the suspect was a calculated individual. The investigation led to a conviction. So let's take questions. 1. What did Detective James collect from the crime scene? 2. What technique did the detective use to monitor the suspect movement? 2. What technique did the detective use to monitor the suspect's movement? 3. What was the purpose of interrogating the suspect? 4. What did the detective discover about the suspect's claim of being elsewhere during the crime? 5. What was the reason behind the suspect's action according to their investigation? 5. What was the reason behind the suspect's action according to their investigation? 6. What process ensured the integrity of the stolen money as evidence? 6. What process ensured the integrity of the stolen money as evidence? 7. What scientific analysis linked the suspect to the crime scene? 8. What supported the detective's theory about the crime? Penultimately, 9. What technique helped the detective understand the suspect's behavior and characteristics? Again, what technique helped the detective understand the suspect's behavior and characteristics? Finally, what was the outcome of their investigation? Now let's consider the answers. And remember, you shouldn't come to this section until you've answered the questions. So this is for you to verify or to compare your answer with what I have here. So the answer to the first question is Detective James collected evidence, including fingerprints and security footage. 2. The detective placed the suspect under surveillance to monitor its movements. 3. The purpose of the interrogation was to gather more information from the suspect. 4. Their investigation revealed inconsistency in the suspect's alibi. 5. The motive behind the suspect's action was financial gain. 6. The chain of custody ensured the integrity of the stolen money as evidence. 7. Forensic analysis linked the suspect to the crime scene. 8. Witness statements corroborated the detective's theory about the crime. Witness statements corroborated the detective's theory about the crime. And ultimately, profiling suggested the suspect was a calculated individual. And finally, their investigation led to conviction.
So now that you've taken all 10 questions, how did you fare? What's your result? Did you have all 10 questions correct? Or did you miss them all through? Or just put 5 or 6? So just let me know what your grade is in the comment section. Leave your feedback in there and let me know whether or not you struggled with all 10 words or you remembered all 10 words seamlessly. I'll really be delighted to find out what your opinions are in the comment section. Thanks for staying to the end of this video. See you in the next class. Bye for now.